Hey, what's up guys? Alright, so we have the spoilers, the leaks for Black Clover chapter 324, and this chapter looks like it's going to be the most intense, battle-heavy chapter that we had since Lucifero actually manifested, even more so than when the captains were fighting against them in both the chapters. So yeah, I'm looking forward to actually going into this chapter now. I'm going to be doing the video format differently than I usually do. I'm not going to be going over details by image. Instead, I'm basically just going to look over the images I have, or basically go from memory the images I've seen leaked out so far. I'm recording this about an hour after the images started coming out, so most of the leaks should be out right now, just not fully translated yet. But basically, I'm going to be giving kind of like my own summary of what I think is going to be happening in the chapter, going over the important details I saw from the leaks, that we don't have to waste our time on kind of images that aren't really that important to talk about. And unfortunately, as always, because of the fact that I'm doing this about an hour after the leaks come out, there is no summary out officially just yet. And as always, I'm not going to have any of the images on the screen because of copyright. But you can always find them if you go on Twitter and look up hashtag BC Spoilers, or even find them on Reddit. Okay, so let's jump right into the leaked images for the chapter. And like I said, I'm going to try to convert the images the best I can into the summary of the chapter in sequential order. So getting into that, the first image I want to talk about is actually this boss image, probably the most hyped one for me from these leaks, of Zora covered in traps, trading blows with Lucifero. Like the two of them in the image are trading blows, like hitting each other in the fist. And this already, I've seen people comparing it on Twitter, but this is giving me heavy vibes, heavy flashbacks to the fight between Dante and Magna, where we had Magna fighting against someone who was way above his weight class and coming out with the victory. Now, based on what we see from later on in the leaks, I'm thinking that Zora doesn't win this fight. But still, the fact that the first time we get to see the results of Zora's training over these past 6 months is in a fight against Lucifero himself, that is hype as hell. Like, I'm definitely going to be excited when I read that moment, regardless if Zora actually just gets swatted away very easily into the beginning of the chapter, or if he puts up a decent fight. Regardless, just the balls of Zora to actually try to take on the Devil King by himself. And actually, from the image, you can kind of tell he's not exactly by himself. It does look like, and as we saw from the last chapter, it does definitely look like Nero's right there behind him, so she's trying to back him up with her magic. I definitely gotta give the two of them props for that, because that takes some serious balls to try to take on him by themselves. Then, what we're seeing from later on in the chapter, it looks like we're going to have Yami and Nacht, as we kind of implied at the end of the last chapter, going forward and actually just tag teaming against Lucifero throughout the majority of the chapter. And we actually get to see some pretty cool moves from the two of them. We actually get to see them using their combination shadow and dark magic together to attack him. And we also get to see another combo devil union between two of Nacht's devils. I believe this time it was Candace and Phyllis, and I'm not sure if we've seen this devil union combination before. I'm still holding out hope that at some point during this fight, or maybe later on in the series, we'll actually get to see a combination of all four devils together, which kind of has me worried that we might not actually get to see that now, because later on in this chapter, from one of the leaked images, we find out that one of his devils actually does get injured from Lucifero. And it's kind of, I'm not sure if the text, the translated text we have for this image kind of implies that maybe this devil actually might have died off from the attack, but the way that Nacht's actually kind of very cavalier about the whole thing makes you think that maybe the devil's just incapacitated at the time, like he's damaged, but he's not dead. And I believe it was actually the bird who ended up getting hurt in this chapter, so I think Nacht actually calls on the dog devil in order to take his place, which I definitely think is going to be a new introduction to a new devil uniform, because I don't think we've seen a combination between the cat and the dog just yet. But yeah, like I said, we get to see a lot of cool combination moves between Nacht and Yami in this chapter. Like, there's this moment where the two of them actually use kind of the move that Nacht tried to use against Lil Phanama back when he fought against them. We see a more advanced version of that, with the two of them combining their magic and making it Shadow Dark Playground or something like that. The translation wasn't that great, but still, it actually is a pretty cool image. We get to see everything in the surrounding area between them just gets covered in this dark shadow, and all these clones of Nacht and Yami actually go flying towards Lucifero. And throughout the fight, it looks like Yami and Nacht are just kind of constantly pushing themselves harder and harder. In fact, we even have in this chapter, from the translated text I got to see, that Yami does recognize that there's something different about his magic, that he's a lot stronger, that it's welling up inside him a lot more than it usually does. So definitely, as we saw in the last chapter, when I'm blanking on her name right now, when Gray mentioned that Yami has devil magic inside of him that changed his body, kind of like the same way that Libe changed Asa's body. This is definitely giving him a major power boost. Probably not, it's definitely not on the same level as Lucifero, so you can't soul him, but it definitely boosted his power so that he can actually stand a chance against him in this fight. And actually, speaking of Yami, we get to see, from what I can tell, is a brand new attack from him called Dark Deep Slash. Now, maybe I'm misremembering, because it has been about 2 or so years since the last time we actually got to see Yami fight, so maybe this actually was a move that he already had. As far as I can tell without doing any additional research, this is a brand new technique that he's bringing out in this chapter against Lucifero, and we get to see, like I said, him and Nacht basically tag teaming him throughout a majority from what I could tell of the chapter, and this is giving me heavy vibes back to when him and Asta actually tag team against Dante. Although obviously we don't have the emotional connection hitting as hard as we did back then because we spent hundreds of episodes or hundreds of chapters building up the relationship between those two characters, as vice versa we kind of just have been implied over a few years between these two, even though we only really got to see the two of them interact in the last chapter and a few flashback chapters before that. But still, it's actually really cool seeing the two of them tag team together against Lucifero, and you can definitely tell that the two of them actually were pretty good partners back in the day before Yami ended up joining the Magic Knights. Now, what's really interesting about this is going later into the chapter, after all the attacks they throw at him, the only thing the two of them actually manage to do is scratch his arm. Like, and not really scratch, it's like more like a bruise. It's definitely a deeper wound than a scratch, but still, they don't really manage to do much damage to him overall. But we get this moment where Lucifero's looking at his arm, and then he just kind of looks at his hands and says, you know what, he kind of gives them props in this chapter, which is kind of reminding me of what Megakula did, although Lucifero is taking it to a whole nother step, because when he's giving them props saying that he's kind of impressed by the fact that they were able to damage him, he follows it up by saying that he's going to reward them by killing them, everyone they love, and all the humans on the face of the earth. So basically what they ended up doing was just pissing him off even more. Now, we don't actually have a leaked image out for it just yet as I'm recording this video, but from what I could tell, somewhere between that last part I just talked about and the end of the chapter, Nero is actually going to go over to Asta and heal or seal up some of his wounds so that he's able to fight again, because at the end of the chapter we actually get to see Lucifero transform into a brand new transformation, which he's saying is his full power. Now, from what I'm seeing from the leaked images, there's no translation that's confirming that he's been 100% manifested. But if you look at his brand new transformation, you see that those swirly images that he, or those swirly like imperfections he had on his body since he's manifested have actually kind of centered themselves to his chest, and he has a little bit on his arms and shoulders. But yeah, as of right now, there's no confirmation that this is actually him 100% manifested, although based on the transformation and the look, you could probably imply that at the very least he's probably more manifested than he was prior to this. Although, because of the fact that I still believe that this is not the end of the series, this is not the final arc, and Lucifero is the final villain, so they're going to probably have to fight against him in the ending of the series, which is probably arcs from now as far as I'm concerned. More than likely, we are going to see him fully manifest later on, and this is probably just the full power that he can bring out at 50% manifestation. But anyway, after that, at the end of the chapter, we get to see that Asta, Yami, Nacht, and Yuno are all four going to be teaming up against Lucifero in order to fight him in this brand new transformation, which is cool as hell to think about. The fact that these four characters, these four, two sets of best friends, two sets of brothers are basically teaming up against this devil, this like king of devils. But if they could barely land a scratch on him prior to this, there is no way, in my opinion, that the four of them alone should be able to defeat him. Now, maybe something happens in the next few chapters, like maybe Asta finds a way to unlock more power from his devil union, so maybe that gives him the upper edge in this fight, or maybe we actually get Noelle finally joining the fight like I've been calling for forever now, so maybe she actually gets involved in the next chapter or two. Maybe some of the Spirit Guardians get involved, some other characters. Hell, I'd actually even take Magna showing back up and using that same move that he used against Dante to drain some of Lucifero's mana, so they can actually stand a better chance of defeating him. That would be cool, because actually, if I remember correctly, if he did that and then Lucifero tried to break the chain, there's a huge drawback to breaking the chain. Like, so there's some kind of like negative effect that happens on the person that breaks it. So if that were to happen, that could actually also weaken Lucifero even more, and it actually could make it more believable that they could defeat him. Now, I don't think that's going to end up happening. I think Magna's time to shine was back when he fought against Dante, and that's all he's going to get. But yeah, I do think that actually would be the best option to defeat Lucifero using Magna's ability. But yeah guys, those are it for the leaks for this chapter. That's all I have as of right now as I'm recording this video. Probably by the time I'm done recording this and uploaded it, there's probably going to be a lot more leaks out. There's probably going to be a full summary of the chapter out. But that's all I have for this video. Thanks for watching. I really do hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll catch you guys out this Friday when the chapter comes out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I won't skip out this time like I did last week. Peace out.